They call it the birthplace of civilization. A river that shaped empires, a river that carried life across thousands of kilometers, long before maps even existed. But today, that same river stands at the center of one of the most dangerous questions of our time. A question that decides whether nations rise or fall, whether millions drink or thirst, whether the future is shaped by cooperation or conflict. This is the story of the Nile and the dam that changed everything. Deep inside the mountains of northwest Ethiopia, a megastructure rises above the Blue Nile, a wall of concrete, steel, and unstoppable ambition. The Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, the largest dam in Africa. A project so powerful, so colossal, that it could light up an entire continent. But it also has the power to plunge nations into darkness. For Ethiopia, this dam is hope, electricity, independence, a future without poverty. For Egypt, it is fear, a threat to survival, a hand closing around the throat of a nation that depends on the Nile for almost every drop of water it drinks. And in between these two dreams lies the river that started it all. The Nile is unlike any other river on Earth. It crosses deserts that should have killed it. It flows through lands where rain almost never falls. It feeds over 300 million lives while receiving almost nothing in return. And here's the part most of the world never knew. 85% of the Nile's water doesn't come from Egypt, not from Sudan, not from the plains of Africa. It comes from one place, Ethiopia, the Blue Nile. For centuries, Ethiopia watched the river leave its mountains, cross its borders, and give life to other nations, while millions of Ethiopians lived without electricity, without clean water, and without choices. So Ethiopia made a decision that shook the world, a decision that would rewrite Africa's future. It would build the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam with its own money, with its own engineers, with its own hands. No loans, no foreign control, no permission, just a river and a dream. Construction began in 2011, and from the very first day, the ground beneath Africa started to shift. Ethiopia saw the dam as liberation. Egypt saw it as danger. Because for Egypt, the Nile is not just water, it is history, identity, survival. 97% of Egypt's population lives along the Nile. Without it, farms would dry, cities would collapse, the economy would fall apart. Egypt believes that if Ethiopia fills its dam too fast, the Nile could drop to levels not seen in centuries, and millions could suffer. Ethiopia believes that Egypt wants to control a river that never belonged to it alone. And Sudan, caught between the two, benefiting from electricity and flood control, yet fearing the consequences if anything goes wrong. This is why experts call it the most dangerous water conflict of the 21st century. Not because war is inevitable, but because water is becoming the new oil, and whoever controls it controls the future. But before we understand the crisis, we must understand the dam. GERD stands more than 145 meters tall, nearly 2 kilometers long, built with more concrete than used in the Hoover Dam, with a reservoir that can hold 74 billion cubic meters of water. To Ethiopia, this massive reservoir is like a battery, a storage of power ready to turn into electricity, enough to reach more than 60 million Ethiopians who live in darkness. But to Egypt, that same reservoir is a threat, a giant bowl that could hold back the water they depend on every single day, that farmers will lose crops, that cities will face shortages, that the Aswan High Dam, Egypt's most important lifeline, could run dangerously low. Ethiopia insists the dam will not harm Egypt. That filling will be slow, controlled, safe. But trust, is the rarest resource in this conflict, because at the heart of this story lies a deeper truth. This is not just about water. This is about dignity, power, history. Africa has long been shaped by agreements made more than a century ago, when colonial powers divided rivers like property. Egypt says those agreements protect its rights. Ethiopia says those agreements were never fair, never equal, never made by African nations for themselves. So what happens when one nation's dream becomes another nation's fear? The pressure rises, the river tightens, and the world watches. Today, Ethiopia has already completed multiple filling stages of the dam. Turbines are producing electricity. Lights are turning on in villages that lived in darkness for generations. But Egypt's anxiety grows with each year. Cairo warns that the Nile is a red line, that its survival cannot be compromised, that the flow of the river is not negotiable. Ethiopia responds with equal determination, saying the dam is a symbol of pride, of sovereignty, of a people who refuse to stay in the shadows of poverty. And Sudan shifts between hope and fear, knowing that it stands closest to the consequences if anything goes wrong. Diplomacy continues, meetings happen, agreements are attempted, but no final solution has been reached. Why? Because this conflict is not just about what is happening today, it's about what will happen tomorrow. Climate change is shrinking rivers worldwide. Rainfall patterns are unpredictable. Droughts are growing longer. Populations are increasing. Water demand is rising. The Nile, one of the most fragile major rivers on Earth, is now under more pressure than ever. Some experts warn that the Nile could become the world's first climate-triggered geopolitical crisis. Others say GERD could become the foundation for an African energy revolution. Two futures, two realities, one river. The truth is, GERD can save millions, or it can spark the greatest conflict modern Africa has ever seen. The outcome depends not on the dam, but on the decisions made around it. If cooperation wins, the dam becomes a beacon of progress. Ethiopia gains electricity, Sudan gains stability, Egypt gains predictability, and Africa gains a model for shared water. If tension wins, the region steps toward an uncertain future, a future shaped by fear, drought, and mistrust. And that brings us to the final haunting question. What happens if the Nile, the river that carried pharaohs, prophets, and nations, becomes a battlefield? What happens when water becomes more valuable than peace? The answer is still unwritten, because the story of GERD is not finished. It is unfolding, slowly, day by day, drop by drop. But one truth remains. The Nile does not belong to one nation. It belongs to all who depend on it, and the choices made today will echo across centuries. This dam, this river, this conflict is ultimately about survival. A survival that will demand wisdom, patience, and courage from every side. Because in the end, water has no enemy. Only humans do. And the future of the Nile, Africa's river of life, depends on whether we choose conflict or choose to share the very thing that keeps us alive.